Who's ready for another fast playthrough? I sure am, and I've got the perfect game for it. This game broke me as a kid, and now I'm going to break it.
The Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Bayou Billy, one of the most infamous NES games of the 80s. No doubt because this game actually shows the woman's cleavage. Oh my goodness. And the guy's got a knife pointed at her chin and he's smoking a cigar. How does all of this get past the censors? Yeah, actually, I played the Japanese version of this game too, and she's actually wearing a dress. The American version is even more, just vulgar than the Japanese version is, and that's so weird. Anyways, Bayou Billy is a weird game. It is actually 3 different genres in one, and this first stage, and the first genre, is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, kind of like Double Dragon, but this game is one of the most infamously hard NES games, and that was really where much of its notoriety came from back in the day. There's really not much about this game that I can say. You punch, you kick, you jump kick, and enemies have just, a ton of health. I'm actually not even sure how to properly play this game. I just jump kick at them over and over again until they die. Because whenever they punch or kick you, there's no real wind-up to their attacks, so there's no real way to avoid them. And of course, on this screen, I've got the one guy out, because if you go all the way to the right, there are 3 guys that you have to kill, but you can get one of them on screen at once, and it's easier to deal with one guy than it is 3 guys at once, so that's kind of a technique you can employ. And this enemy right here drops the first health recovery item as soon as I kick you out of him. Evidently he had some kind of meat in his pocket, and he just loses it as soon as he gets punched. Alright, so there are, of course, flying birds, because there's got to be flying birds, right? And this is the first crocodile pit. These enemies are crocodiles, and they're optional here, but they're mandatory later on. And there were 3 of them on screen, so the game actually despawned a couple of the birds. Yeah, see, this game can only have 3 enemies on screen at once, so if you get one of the crocodiles off to the left, you can spawn a bird that will fly into this pack of enemies right here, and it will cause one of them to despawn because it tries to spawn 3 enemies and the bird is taking up one of those spots. So I've picked up the stick. The stick is the first weapon you get, and it's basically as strong as the jump kick. It's probably a little bit weaker, but much easier to use it because you only have to push 1 button instead of 2. The punch button is your B button, and the kick button is your A button, and to jump kick you have to push both at once. And this is unfortunate. The stick has wound up in the same position as the knife, which is another weapon. You throw the knife. And since it's on... Well, the enemy actually conveniently picked it back up, but then I punched it back into the stick. Fortunately, I picked up the knife first. The reason I was concerned about that is because if you pick up a weapon while you're already holding one, the old weapon gets discarded completely, kind of like in Castlevania. So I wanted to hopefully pick up the knife first, which is what happened. Now this is the second crocodile pit, and unfortunately these crocodiles are mandatory and they're a pain in the butt to kill. Not particularly hard, you just have to hit them when they pop out of the water. Just kind of maintain a decent distance from them, not too close, not too far away, because if you're too close then they're still going to hit you regardless of whether or not you hit them first. If you are in the water with them, then that's another story, because you can push the button as soon as they pop out and they'll never hit you. They'll get hit and they'll just go back into the water. This kind of reminds me of the first couple of opening screens to Metal Gear Solid 3 with the crocodiles and everything. Luckily you don't have to kill those. Alright, so we've got scuba divers here for some reason, and the guy on the right is who you want to hit first because he's wearing a bulletproof vest which will make you immune to the bullets that the others are shooting at you. Then you can just, I'm kind of going through the water here because I'm searching for the stick I dropped, but it turns out it was actually on the left side. You can then freely attack the guys with the guns because they can't hit you when you've got the bulletproof vest for some reason, even though it doesn't really cover your entire body and they could probably just shoot you in the head or something. But anyways, you can kill them now, and you can even take their guns, which for some reason have limited amounts of ammo, even though when they shoot you, you've got infinite ammo, of course. These enemies that I'm shooting at here, they're incredibly annoying to deal with. So you want to use the bullets because it takes them down the fastest and from a long distance. But this white scuba diver here has a bulletproof vest, so you want to kick that off of him, and you might as well just hit him with the stick, even though there are no more mandatory enemies beyond this point, and you could just use the gun. You don't have to deal with these crocodiles here. So while I'm just moving through the stage here, I will talk a little bit about the Japanese version of this game, because the Japanese version is way easier, like not even close to the notoriously high difficulty of Bayou Billy that we know in the American version. None of the crocodile pits in the Japanese version are mandatory at all, so you can just walk right past them, which I am very thankful for. Oh yeah, that voice clip there, that wasn't in the Japanese version either, so that's nice. So stage 2 is interesting because I'm using the controller here, but you can actually use the light gun for these sections. This is the second genre in the game. It is a scrolling rail shooter, and you can use the light gun accessory for the NES if you've got it, but of course I prefer not to use it, both because the light gun is incredibly difficult to use, and you actually get less bullets. As you can see there, I have 140 bullets right now, and you have to shoot the power-ups to use them. I just got the bulletproof vest, which gives you immunity to all attacks for a short amount of time, even though I'm pretty sure I picked up a bulletproof vest in the beat-em-up stage, so who knows why I can't use it here, huh? And of course, other items include the med kit, which is full health recovery if you shoot it. And you can also shoot additional bullet pickups if the enemy drops it, and you can shoot the star, which will clear away all enemies on the screen, even though it's actually very easy to just shoot all the enemies. These shoot-em-up sections are probably the easier part of the game, for me at least, because if you've got at least somewhat decent reflexes, enough to actually shoot at all the enemies before they can shoot at you, then, you know, you're gonna be good to go, I think. And I just picked up an extra life, by the way. That was what the thing falling from the sky was. I have no idea if it's triggered by something or other, but whatever. So there are 3 enemy types here. The guys with the pistols basically just point and shoot at you, so you just have to get to them first. The guys with the bazookas and the dynamite sticks, you can actually shoot their projectiles out of existence, I guess, before they can hit you, which is very weird. You'd think shooting a stick of dynamite would do more than just make it go away, but, you know. So the game throws out a couple of power-ups at you before the boss of this section. This is actually the first boss in the game. It is a Hind D. Okay, it's probably not a Hind D, but I like to make a bunch of Metal Gear references when I play this. It flies from left to right and shoots at you while also dropping more bad guys. And this is actually annoying to deal with if you're a first-timer, because there appears to be no way to stop the helicopter from shooting at you. You can stop the guys from shooting at you, but the best way to deal with a helicopter, I feel, is to just pump as many bullets into it as you can while dealing with the guys on the ground if you've got a moment. And of course, you should be able to outrace its health meter. Like, if you just damage race it, then you'll be alright. So coming up next, we have another beat-em-up stage. And this stage has been extended greatly in length compared to the Japanese version. Like, you know, I'm probably going to bring this up a lot because the comparisons between the Japanese version and the American version are very interesting to talk about. And I have no idea why they decided to make the American version so extremely hard compared to the Japanese version. But you know, the theory that I see thrown out a lot online is that the Japanese version was basically just another game in Konami's library. It wasn't notorious for any reason. Oh, this gator pit, by the way, you have to... Gator pit? It's a crocodile. It's obviously a crocodile, because I know that Billy himself is based on the character Crocodile Dundee. So, they have to be crocodiles, right? So yeah, this crocodile pit is mandatory, unlike in the Japanese version. I think the reason they inflated the difficulty so much is that the Japanese version of this game, which is called Mad City for some reason, just wasn't that interesting. It didn't have really anything notorious about it. I mean, this music is excellent. This is a really great song. In fact, fun fact, this song is actually based on a 1981 song called Breaking and Entering by Dee Dee Sharp. Never heard of her, I'm sure she's good. So anyways, back to what I was saying though. The Japanese version of this is actually so easy that the game ends up being kind of unremarkable, aside from the fact that it's 3 genres in one. Now, that could be coming from the fact that I've played Bayou Billy so much that I've practically mastered the game. Yeah, I've mastered Bayou Billy. I'm taking that one to my grave. But anytime I start up a game of Mad City to compare it, it's like, well, it's so easy to get through that it's almost boring, in fact. You know, except for some of the later stages, those are kind of difficult. Hey, this is the toughest enemy group so far. 3 red guys. The red guys are much more aggressive than the blue guys. I think one of them is carrying a stick, even though I'm pretty sure the red guys actually can't use sticks. Enemies with weapons are really weird. You know, sometimes they can use them, sometimes they can't use them. Oh well, moving on. So what's more dangerous than a pack of 3 red guys? Apparently, 1 red guy. I have no idea why they put 1 red guy after a group of 3, but here's the boss. This boss, when he gets really close to you, he will attempt to suplex you, which is kind of cool looking, but you can actually break out of the suplex by pressing the B button. So if you just get close to him and rapidly mash B, he will always go for the suplex, and then you'll break out of it, and then you'll just get dozens of free hits in. Except for at the end there, I had to drop kick him at the last second. He's also got a bulletproof vest, so if you try to throw the knife at him, it'll just bounce right off. Did I mention that the bulletproof vests prevent knives from hitting you? Well, I guess if they can prevent bullets, then they can prevent knives too. Ah, but now we are up to the most infamous part of the game. We are about to enter the 3rd genre this game has. It is an action driving stage. And, this is actually the most crazy part of the game. I consider Stage 4 to be the hardest, even though Stage 5 is another driving stage, spoiler alert. But the driving stages, they were overhauled massively from what was seen in the Japanese version. Because in the Japanese version of this game, you have a life bar, and you have a timer at the top of the screen, but you can see that there's no life bar here because in the American version, everything kills you in 1 hit, as opposed to the Japanese version where only a couple of things kill you in 1 hit. That's right, everything kills you in 1 hit. Enemy vehicles, those planes that drop bombs, the sticks on the side of the road, and as we'll see, there are random rocks in the middle of the road too, and those just catch you off guard. It's insane. Like, right there. I didn't know I was going to get hit by the stick there, so, you know, I thought I was safe, but it turns out that no, I wasn't safe. Anyways, it's difficult to see the rocks coming, but you can see that I'm firing a gun of some kind. I have no idea what that is, and I just ran into another vehicle, and again, and I've lost another life. And in fact, if you die during a non-beat-em-up stage, you lose your weapons from the beat-em-up stage, so I don't have the stick anymore, I don't have the bulletproof vest, and I'm down 2 lives. Luckily, this game has, you have a handful of credits. You can continue up to like 5 times. So even if I lose my 2 remaining lives in this stage, you know, that's no big deal. I could just try again, but then I would only have 2 lives on the next credit. And I have to get through this all on 1 credit. And it's a pretty long stage for how lethal it is. So yeah, other changes from the Japanese version, the road was wider, the turns weren't so tight, you could actually control your vehicle. And there was also another vehicle that was constantly in front of you that could not be shot at. It would all of your bullets would just bounce off. And the reason for that is the car that you're seemingly chasing after is that truck that was carrying Annabelle away in the previous stage. Did you notice? So yeah, that's another detail that kind of gets lost in the translation. And I just passed by, you know, I thought it was an enemy because it's the same color as all of the vehicles I'm shooting out of the way. But I passed by a gas can which would have extended the timer. Yeah, there's a time limit on top of all of this. So, like, you know, it's not really mandatory. Oh, and there are also puddles that slow you down. They're barely even a threat. But, you know, on top of everything else, there's a time limit too, and I have to take it slow through here because I don't want to randomly run into one of the sticks on the side of the road. What are those even doing there? Oh yeah, I should have mentioned it by now, but you've also noticed that I'm throwing grenades to deal with the planes in the sky. How does that work? But, if you throw a grenade up into the sky, you cannot fire your gun. So, if a truck and a plane are coming at you, then that's going to be a real treat trying to deal with that, because you can only shoot at one of them at a time. But you can probably just dodge out of the way of the bomb anyways. Oh yeah, the fun is over now, by the way. He just spelled it out for you, because the highway stage that we're about to deal with is even more infamous than the road we just went through. I can't really imagine why, actually. Because on the highway, at least there aren't any random rocks that you have to deal with, but it is longer, and the enemy hitboxes are even worse than they were in the previous level, because instead of planes, we've kind of downgraded from planes to helicopters now, and the helicopters have such weird hitboxes. And not only do they have weird hitboxes, that they will sometimes dodge out of the way of your grenades, which also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You'll kind of see what I mean. I'll point them out as the examples come up. Here comes a helicopter now, actually. Yeah, I hit that one. So, to deal with the driving stages, assuming none of this is randomized, and I just ran into a stick again, how fantastic. Assuming none of this is randomized... Oh, you see, it dodged out of the way of my grenade, and I got hit with a bomb as a result. That was very bad. Also, you'd think that you could, like, avoid the grenades by just, like, or the bombs, rather, by just stopping as soon as they've, Yeah, it's weird how the bombs track you. They track you, apparently. This stage does not like the laws of physics. Yeah, I'm losing track of what I'm trying to say here, but... I guess it's a testament to how crazy this stage is. Oh, how did the grenade not hit that one? Like, you saw that, like, I assume that its hitbox crossed into my grenade, so it should have been a hit detected, but I guess not. So, in this stage, it's actually long enough that it's possible if you take it slow, like I am, because, you know, you've got to take it at least a little bit slowly so you can react to what was going on. That was a scare right there. I was stuck between getting hit by the bomb and the stick. Everything's flying at you. Okay. I've beaten the stage without dying once, but I can still kind of recognize how crazy it is. Also, there are oil slicks on this road instead of puddles. I have no idea if they actually do anything, because they don't seem to actually do anything to my turning. Weird. Oh, and that little jingle right there means I got enough points for an extra life. You get extra lives at, I believe, 20,000, 60,000, and 100,000 points. Like, not that it matters. Well, it actually does matter for this stage, because I just lost it now. It would have been game over if I had not gotten the extra life, so that's a good thing. And there, the helicopter dodges my grenade again. Very strange. So yeah, because of the length of the stage and the fact that... Oh, that was another scare. And the fact that you want to take it slow so you can actually react to some of the stuff that's going on is actually possible to run low on time, and there aren't even any gas tanks to extend the timer in the stage. So that's another reason this is completely crazy. So we're almost to the end here. And after Stage 5 is another very hard stage in Stage 6. And you are going to see my life counter go from 0 to 2, and my score is going to drop to 0 because I actually died in Stage 6, and, you know, you don't need to see any of that, so I edited out dying in Stage 6 and using up a continue. So, you know, that's me being kind and courteous. I still beat this game in under an hour. It only took like 45 minutes. This game... Yeah, honestly, it kind of feels like some of the old-style arcade action games where it's a short game, but they make it extremely hard so you'll put more quarters into the machine. Only in this case, there are no quarters to be gained from constantly retrying. So this stage, it takes place on Bourbon Street. Apparently we've been in Louisiana the entire time. And this stage is glitched! Yes, they introduce a new enemy type that stays off-screen for so long that the game can register that it's no longer in existence and lets you skip ahead. Very odd. Now, this enemy type here, the guy with the ball and chain, I actually kind of like him because he actually telegraphs his attacks and it's possible to dodge him, so he actually functions like a decently designed enemy. The other new enemy type that they introduced is a guy with his hands in his pockets who produces a pocket knife whenever he gets close to you and instantly stabs you with it. We'll see a couple more of them coming up. First, we gotta deal with these two guys walking in formation, apparently. Yeah, just avoid the ball and chain and then give them 6 jump kicks and they're down. one of the most reasonable enemies in the game. And this one drops a meatball. This game, this stage is actually very, it's conservative about giving you health recovery items. So yeah, you can see that he just, this is the enemy I was talking about. He's already taken off 2 life bars from me. Like, I have no idea how damage in this game actually works, because sometimes when the game registers a hit, it just, it just bounces off of you and does nothing. But sometimes when you're hit, you'll actually get caught and fly away, and then it will take off a health bar. So I have no idea how this works, but these 2 enemies are great because they have the best weapon in the game, and you can take it from them. I think you can see why the whip is the best weapon in the game, because it gives you some actual range and lets you avoid enemy attacks. So now I don't have to deal with these guys and their pocket knives, because I can just whip them to death. And they actually have like a smaller amount of health. That's a weird thing, actually. I think the brown guy has the least amount of health. I have no idea why they come in 3 varieties. See, that time the pocket knife did nothing to me. And are these guys stuck or something? These guys are really weird. Their AI is very, very erratic. Anyways, you just have to whip them a bunch, and they're all gonna be down in a minute here. And what is next for us? Oh, it's just one guy from the top. You can actually skip this enemy too with another glitch, but I never figured out how to make that work. When I did the glitch earlier, when I skipped the guys with the pocket knives, I just kind of ran to the right of the screen and ran up and down to kind of get them to stay off screen for long enough that the game would register them as dead. But I don't know what you're supposed to do with these guys. If you look up the TAS of this game, it skips these guys. I have no idea how you could skip getting the whip, but I suppose a TAS doesn't need the whip. The whip, I think, is weaker than the jump kick, but it just has so much range that you're better off with the whip. Because it lets you avoid taking so much damage. I've only got 2 hits left in me. And, oh, the whip is landing near the stick, so I might accidentally overwrite the whip with the stick. I wouldn't want that to happen, now would I? Unfortunately, I've only got 1 health bar left. This is another new enemy. He, like the boss of Stage 3, will actually try to suplex you if you get too close. So yeah, the whip is the best option for dealing with him. Unfortunately, I died and lost it. In fact, not only did I lose the whip, I lost the bulletproof vest as well. So I hope nobody has a gun in this stage. Yeah, actually nobody has a gun in this stage. I have no idea why the guns are so rare in this game. They only pop up in 2 stages. 4 if you count the... What actually hit me just now? I didn't see the pocket knife hit me. What the heck? Yeah, these enemies are so bugged. These are the most bugged enemies in the whole game. You can get the game to register that they're dead, and sometimes they just hit you for no reason. You can see that without the whip I've lost so much health to them, but fortunately this guy has... What hit me? What even hit me there? I have no idea what's going on. Okay, so this guy is brown. That means he's got a bulletproof vest for some reason. Now, just to remind everybody what the bulletproof vest does, it not only blocks bullets, but if you try to hit somebody who's got... Oh, he just suplexed me, by the way. It not only blocks bullets, it blocks knives, and if you try to hit somebody with the stick and they've got the vest, it breaks. But the whip still works, so I don't really know what's up with that. Anyways, I'm losing a lot of health to these guys. They can be pretty difficult to deal with. This guy, he's got a whip, so hopefully I can take it from him and just whip him to death before he kills me. But unfortunately, in a very bad mistake by me, I overwrote the whip with the knife. So, yeah, I kind of have to just go full YOLO there. Fortunately, that was the end of the stage, but I only had 1 hit left in me, so you can see why that was a pretty difficult stage. And Stage 7 is pretty difficult too. Like, even for somebody like me who's played it a bunch of times, Stage 7 is the harder of the 2 rail shooter stages. And the reason it's so hard is because in Stage 7, not only can the enemy, like, there are much faster moving enemies, there are guys on bikes, and the enemies can actually pop out of, like, just wherever they want to. An enemy could appear in those windows, for example, like right there. And the enemy could come out of doors, and they actually pop out of the manholes later on, too. And there's guys on the motorbikes that you can shoot for more ammo. And the enemies are also able to take cover behind background objects, which they couldn't do in Stage 2. So not only can they go behind the building, they can go behind the pillars of the building, they can go behind the trees later on in the stage. You can see them going behind the pillars there. It just gives you less opportunities to hit a guy. Now, a couple of things that I haven't touched on for the shooter stages is that if you run out of bullets, you instantly lose a life. Like, if you can't shoot at people, you can't get any bullets back. But if you hit somebody with your gun, it will actually refund the bullet. I have no idea how that works. I guess the bullet just ricochets off of them while at the same time killing them and pops back into your hand. Let's not question that. But since it refunds a bullet, if you hit somebody, you can actually shoot 2 guys at once and get back 2 bullets. So you got 2 for 1. I don't know if that's practical in any fashion, but whatever. So this section of the level is okay. I mean, they just come on screen and they keep firing one at a time. I have no idea why they're doing that. I have no idea. That was actually a pretty easy section. It's much harder when you have to deal with a bunch of guys at once, like in this section here. And, let's see, that enemy just randomly dropped bullets for some reason. There's no real indication of who drops an item or not. I mean, all of the guys on the bikes definitely do. And for some reason, that guy on the bike doesn't come back after going off screen, so you don't really have a big window to shoot at him. So, hopefully, if you've made it by this far, you have at least... Well, I was gonna say I made it this far with a full life bar, but unfortunately I got hit just once. You want to have at least like 5 or 6 hits left for the boss, unless you want to just lose a life and come back with full health. That is because this boss is very difficult. Put the cursor in the lower left bar of the screen and just shoot at the guy with the machine gun, because though you're able to stop the guy with a knife by shooting the knives out of the sky, you cannot stop the guy with a machine gun from shooting at you except by shooting him. So you want to take out him first, and once he's dealt with, you can very easily block the rest of the knives, but you kind of need some really good reflexes in order to stop them from hitting you. So yeah, years and years of being bullied by this game, and it's still kind of difficult for me to hit back a little bit. Fortunately, we're into Stage 8, which is the second to last stage, so it's all beat-em-ups from here on out. But Stages 8 and 9 are very, very short. This, Stage 8 only has like a couple of screens to it. There's some pretty tough enemies in it, however, so, you know, you definitely don't want to mess up this late in the game. Going into Stage 8 with a knife, how fantastic. I still have my bulletproof vest, so it's actually possible to, you know, just deal with these guys by getting up to them and jump kicking them. I don't have to worry about the bullets one tiny little bit. And I can just steal one of their guns and just shoot them, because for some reason these guys forgot their bulletproof vests. I have no idea why Gordon doesn't outfit all of his men with bulletproof vests, to be honest. It seems like guns would be the biggest threat to your men. Oh well. Alright, so these guys coming up, they have bulletproof vests actually, so I guess some of the guys' men have bulletproof vests, and I would really like to get a whip from this guy. If you do not go into Stage 9 with a whip, it is basically over. Like, dealing with Stage 9 without a whip is so difficult that I'm going to warn you right now, you want this whip, and you do not want to lose it either. This is your last chance to get a whip. Alright then, so... this third guy is about to lose his bulletproof vest, and once all the vests are gone, you can just use your gun against these guys. Save a couple of bullets for the mini-boss coming up here. As soon as this guy dies, it takes like 11 whip hits to kill him. Now, I've only got 2 hits left in me, but I should be alright. This guy is not difficult to deal with. I actually forgot that his whip has a hitbox, which is very odd because, you know, I'm pretty sure he's not using the whip to hit things. He's just using it to... command his attack dogs. So yeah, after you get the bulletproof vest off of him, just shoot him, and then, yeah, I was wondering what to do with the dogs because they were coming at me from both sides, but I eventually figured, I'll just whip one and then whip the other. Okay, so we're finally up to the final boss. We get to take on Mr. Godfather Gordon himself. Yes, that's what he's called. Why does he even want to kidnap Annabelle anyways? Like, if you just want a girl, You could just kidnap any girl. I don't know why it has to be Billy's girl specifically. But, you know, I don't know all the ins and outs of the deep and rich lore of the Adventures of Bayou Billy. Also, they actually took out something from the Japanese version. Gordon is supposed to frown there, like he's really worried that you're going to actually beat him, which is what we're going to do because Gordon is a pathetic boss. Yeah. All you really have to do to beat this guy, honestly, his AI jumps around a lot, and he's normally really hard to hit, and he can even grab you in the face. I have no idea what that move is supposed to be. But if you just get up to his kicking range, he will rapidly try to kick you, and then you can just whip or jump kick him to death. And you saw me briefly do it, and I'm going to do it again at the end of this fight. But unfortunately, Gordon is not the end of this game, because the game introduces 2 new characters that you've never heard of. Oh, here's the trick with getting into his kick range. The game is actually kind enough to restore all your health, but, yeah, these 2, I have no idea how you're supposed to consistently beat these 2 without a whip. And you can see that they actually have a grab move where one grabs you and the other punches you, but because of the way their movement works, you can actually move around them in a circle like this, and then just hit them with a whip once when you're lined up with them horizontally. If you do not have a whip for this section, then you have to get into punch and kick range, which unfortunately means that they can punch you. And again, just like every other enemy in the game, almost, they don't have any sort of wind-up to their attacks, so there's no real way to avoid them. In addition to that, yeah, sometimes they will break away from their movement pattern and just dart straight for you. Like, I have... And then they can just do that again and again until you're dead. Now, I've tried a couple of times to beat these guys without a whip, and if you come in here with no whip, then they actually only have, they lose a fraction of their health at the start of the fight for some reason. I have no idea why that happens. I guess it's supposed to be some kind of courtesy, but I've never been consistently able to beat these guys without a whip. Oh, this was also another scary moment because they actually separated. I prefer to have these 2, near each other because it just makes them so much more easy to manage. And if you do get grabbed by them, you can break out, I think, if you just mash the buttons, but I have no real idea, how to do that exactly. So eventually one of them goes down, and, yeah, I got a little risky with the other one because I thought I would be able to eventually just whip him to death, but he actually brought me down to 1 more hit to get killed. So I just jump kicked him, I went full YOLO, and it paid off because I've beaten the game now. We've rescued the girl, we're probably going to kiss her and then get married and all of that stuff. But there's another interesting difference between the American version and the Japanese version. The Japanese version has multiple endings. It's so weird. So, in the Japanese version, first of all, there's obviously the good ending, which is what you're seeing right here. You don't have to really do anything to get it. If you played one of the training stages in the Japanese version, which are in the English version, but if you beat the training stages, you get a reward of some kind for the main game. But if you do this, then you get the bad ending in the Japanese version, not in the English version, so you're perfectly able to play the training stages if you wish. The other 2 endings in the Japanese version are if you hold up and select when the girl comes to you. I probably could have worded that better. So, if you hold up and select when this cutscene starts, the characters start speaking with accents. It only makes sense in Japanese, but they start speaking with accents and then they break the 4th wall. But the other secret ending that you can get, when the girl comes out, you still have control of yourself in the Japanese version and can move around. So if you avoid her for long enough, she eventually realizes that you're trying to avoid her and goes home alone. I have no idea why you're able to do that. If you go this far in a game like this and you just reject the girl at the end, I have no idea what's wrong with you. Alright, so that's the Adventures of Bayou Billy, one of the most infamously hard games, or in my case at least hard to master. But eventually it can be mastered, and like I said, I tried out the Japanese version and it's just so weird. Like, after playing Bayou Billy for so long in English, the Japanese version almost feels like not noteworthy because it's not really that hard. The shooter stages and the driving stages, they're not, like, they're kind of just bonus levels, I guess. It's like what did they accomplish? This could have been just a straight beat 'em up for most of it, and well, I guess that would have been yet another thing that would have been not all that noteworthy, because this game is one of the earliest genre blenders, I guess. I'll figure out what I'm trying to say eventually. Oh yeah, all the credits are pseudonyms, so I don't know anybody who actually worked on this game, so I can't tell them how horrible they are for making it on Twitter. Please don't tell game devs they're horrible on Twitter, that's not good. So yeah, that's Bayou Billy, a game from my childhood and probably a lot of other people's childhoods. But there's just one thing more I have to say about this game. After you beat it, and this is in the English version, after you beat it, you can start the game over again on an even higher difficulty level. I have no idea why they would want this, because if you beat this game normally, you must be crazy good and be at the point where you don't want to play it anymore, because I know I certainly was. I mean, I played it one more time for this video, but whatever. But if you beat it on the hard difficulty, you can start again on a third, even higher difficulty. Yeah, nobody wants to do that. That was a weird voice clip they inserted at the end. It just says bye. That's what it says, in case you were wondering. Well, bye-bye.